Hey friends, today I want to talk to you about learning to go with the flow and how to start flowing your way through life instead of forcing your way through life. I had a really cool experience yesterday during my meditation that I think kind of helps ground this in. It at least brought some of these concepts to life for me in a slightly new way that I really enjoy. I get these little epiphany sometimes in my everyday life experiences that really help to ground in some of these originally or initially anyways abstract ideas, kind of where they make a little bit more sense to me in like a tangible real way. So I was meditating and I happened to look out the window and I noticed these birds in front of me, like right in front of my window. And for me, birds and wings and flying are all kind of like signs of freedom, essentially. So that just gives you a little bit of background information. So to me, as soon as I saw the birds, it's like I knew that they were there for me for some reason. And as soon as I started paying attention to them, there were more of them, like a ridiculous amount of birds in front of my window, probably like 10, 15 birds, all just like playing in the wind. I could tell it was a windy day. And I thought to myself, like, what are they, what are you trying to show me? And what I really tuned into at first was the fact that they were playing. There were some of the birds that were clearly like going into the wind, and then they were almost like stopping. It almost kind of looked like one of those glitch in the matrix things, where the birds were like flying, they were flapping their wings, but they weren't actually going anywhere. And then sometimes they would stop and they would just like zoom away, kind of like with the flow of the wind. And I'm watching this unfold like, okay, this isn't entirely new to me, learning to go with the flow, whatever. Like what's in here for me, really? And what I really picked up on was some of them seemed to be playing with the wind, like going into the wind on purpose and then kind of like testing it out, almost like a little experiment of sorts. And then some of them would like go into the wind and then just like totally let go and like let it take them away. And I'm like, oh, this is like a metaphor for life where sometimes we find ourselves in resistance to the flow of things and we're trying so hard with what we think should happen. And we're forcing, right? We're going against the flow of things. It feels really hard. We're flapping our wings. We're not really getting anywhere. And we're wondering why life feels so difficult. And then there's other times where we finally learn to just like surrender and go with the flow of things and like zoom, we go to like where we're meant to be. Maybe not to where we think we should be, or things don't necessarily play out the ways in which our ego thinks that they should, but maybe we end up where we're meant to be or someplace even better, right? I hope you can kind of like pick up on what I'm putting down here. So for me, I think like the highlights of this epiphany and message that came through for me anyways was really like learning to play more. For me, that's been a huge thing, learning to play and not take life so seriously, kind of treat it like an experiment, especially as I'm trying new things. New things feel like really scary, really hard at first, and we can get so serious and just like so tensed up about them when really it could be a little bit more fun if we just let it and we just treated it like an experiment. If we took some pressure off of ourselves and the outcome as to how we think they should turn out and just kind of like let it unfold naturally. Like, what if we just did some things just to see how they turn out? Like with a sense of play and curiosity instead of with all sorts of judgments and pressure, right? Like, how different would our experience be of trying new things? It's so cool. It's actually perfect for me right now as I'm stepping into this new version of myself, trying to do videos, putting myself out there, which is wildly uncomfortable for me, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm trying and I'm learning and I'm experimenting and I'm kind of just going for it and seeing what happens. And the more I treat it like an experiment and have a little bit of fun with it, the easier it becomes. Like, it's not so serious. It's not the end of the world. Maybe if the people of the internet don't like me. So I think learning to play a little bit more in various ways in life could really just like make life feel a little bit easier, right? And then also like learning to surrender with that same kind of idea. So when I talk about like going with the flow, I just want to be clear here that I'm not talking about kind of like, oh, go with the flow, life happens to me, I have no control over things. It's not in a sense of like being a victim of circumstance, right? I'm talking about approaching it through living intentionally, like from someone who's done their fair share of inner work and has really built up their capacities of emotional intelligence and self-awareness and all of these things, where learning to go with the flow is actually an intentional choice. It's choosing the act of surrender. There's a big difference between the two. I hope that makes sense. But choosing to go with the flow is an empowered choice. It's not just like, oh, life happens to me, I have no control. We do have some control with our thoughts and our actions and things like that. But what if we like had a little bit of room in there for like an element of surprise, and we learn to let life like surprise us, delight us a little bit, right? When did we get so afraid of the unknown? Like, maybe if we just let go a little bit, life actually would turn out a lot better than we ever could have imagined, is what I've really been trying to embrace and embody for myself this last year. I think it's important to at least be able to consider, right? We're always considering all the possibilities and the worst case scenario. Well, what about the best case scenario? And what about the best case scenario that we can't even comprehend from where we are today, from our little perspective here on the micro level? What about like a macro level, big panned out view of best case scenario that we can't even comprehend yet because it's so grand? So, yeah, learning to go with the flow. And also, as I was watching the birds, I realized how much effort they were putting into flying against the wind, is what really stuck out to me. And as crazy as it might seem at first, because this is all we've ever really been taught, as wild as it might sound, kind of woo woo maybe, but like maybe life isn't supposed to be this hard. Maybe if we did a little less forcing of the way we think things should be and started to learn to trust in ourselves, in our inner knowing and our intuition and our heart's desires, in the plan of the universe or God or whatever your belief system is. Please insert that here. What if we learned to trust just a little bit more and kind of did like a little bit of trial and error? I feel like life would be a lot more fun, be a lot more interesting. I think it's worth a shot. So, yeah. I feel like There's so much to unpack here, but this is going to have to wait for other videos or I'll just ramble on forever. But I hope this gave you a new perspective on perhaps trying new things, on maybe experimenting with going with the flow a little bit more in your daily life, shaking things up just a little bit, see what happens, right? Maybe try to let things work out for you instead of make things happen for you. Bring in a different energy to your daily life. Or at least open up new perspectives and possibilities for how you'd like to live. So I hope this resonates. I hope it helped someone. Please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're working towards. Let me know if you'd like to hear more about this topic in the future. I hope you have a beautiful day in this beautiful life, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.